man convinced Hollywood's biggest names, the world's largest brands, and the smartest investors in Silicon Valley to give him $1.75 billion. His idea? Short videos for your phone, 10 minutes or less, premium quality. The Netflix of your commute. 6 months after launch, it was gone. Every dollar, every show, every subscriber. This is not a story about bad timing, even though the timing was catastrophic. This is a story about a product that nobody asked for, built by people too successful to hear the word no, funded by money too large to spend wisely. Quibi lasted exactly 188 days. It is the most expensive failure in the history of streaming, and possibly the most instructive. To understand what went wrong, you need to understand who built it and why they were the worst possible people to build it. Jeffrey Katzenberg is one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood history. He ran Disney's film studio through its renaissance in the 1980s. The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King. He co-founded DreamWorks Animation. He produced Shrek. He is, by any measure, a genuine titan of the entertainment industry. Meg Whitman ran eBay for 10 years, growing it from $30 million in revenue to $8 billion. She ran HP. She nearly became governor of California. She is one of the most decorated executives of her generation. Between them, Katzenberg and Whitman had decades of experience, billions in personal wealth, and unlimited access to talent, capital, and connections. What they did not have was any understanding of how people actually use their phones. Quibi, short for Quick Bites, launched in April 2020 with a simple premise. People want to watch premium, short-form video content on their phones during commutes, lunch breaks, and moments of downtime. Not YouTube videos, not TikTok clips. Cinematic, scripted, high-production content, just in 10-minute episodes instead of 60. The content was genuinely impressive. Katzenberg called in every favor he had accumulated over 40 years in Hollywood. Quibi launched with shows starring Chrissy Teigen, Liam Hemsworth, Idris Elba, Jennifer Lopez, and Don Cheadle. They had news content from BBC and ESPN. They had a thriller directed by Steven Spielberg that could only be watched in the dark. The production budgets were enormous, up to $125,000 per minute of content. For comparison, a typical YouTube video costs close to nothing. Even premium Netflix content rarely exceeds $10,000 per minute. Quibi was spending more money per minute than almost any content ever produced, on shows designed to be watched on a phone during a commute, in 10-minute chunks. On the day it launched, April 6, 2020, the entire United States was under lockdown. Nobody was commuting. Nobody was on lunch breaks. Nobody had the in-between moments that Quibi had been designed to fill. The entire behavioral context that justified the product's existence had vanished overnight. This was the moment that became the public explanation for Quibi's failure. Bad timing. A pandemic. Nobody could have predicted it. That explanation is wrong, or rather, it is incomplete in a way that lets the real failure of Quibi. The pandemic revealed that Quibi had a problem that would have killed it anyway. Here is the problem. People watch short video content on their phones all the time. They do it constantly. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram Reels. The demand for short mobile video is enormous and growing. Katzenberg was not wrong about that. What he was wrong about was why people watch it and how they watch it. People watch short video on their phones because it is free, infinite and requires no commitment. You open TikTok and the next video appears automatically. You watch for 30 seconds or 3 minutes, depending on how interested you are. You skip anything that does not immediately grab you. There is no friction, no cost, no decision. Quibi required a subscription, $8 per month with ads, $13 without. For that price, you got access to shows that you had to actively choose to watch in 10-minute episodes on a platform with no social features, no sharing capability, and, critically, no way to watch on a television. That last point became the most visible symbol of how badly Katzenberg and Whitman had misread their audience. From day one, subscribers complained that they could not cast Quibi to their televisions. In the pandemic, with everyone at home, the idea of watching premium content hunched over a phone screen while sitting on a couch 6 feet from a 60-inch television was not just inconvenient, it was absurd. Katzenberg's response to this criticism became infamous. He said in an interview that the inability to watch Quibi on a television was a feature, not a bug. It was designed for mobile. That was the point. He was explaining to customers that they were wrong about how they wanted to watch television. This is a specific kind of executive failure that has a name in business schools: the founder's curse. When someone has been successful enough for long enough, they begin to believe that their instincts are more reliable than customer feedback. They stop asking what people want and start telling people what they should want. Katzenberg had been right about so many things: The Lion King, Shrek, eBay's growth, that it did not occur to him that he might be wrong about this. The metrics told the story immediately. Quibi launched with 1.7 million downloads in its first week. Impressive for a new streaming service. Then the free trial ended. Conversion from free trial to paid subscription was catastrophically low. Within 90 days of launch, Quibi had fewer than 500,000 paying subscribers. For context, Netflix was adding that many subscribers in a single day. The content, for all its production quality and star power, was not generating word of mouth. Nobody was talking about Quibi shows the way people talked about Netflix shows. There was no Quibi equivalent of Tiger King or The Queen's Gambit, a show that people felt compelled to tell their friends about. Part of the reason was the platform's most self-defeating feature. You could not take a screenshot on Quibi. The app blocked it. The intention was to protect content from piracy. The effect was to make it impossible for viewers to share moments from shows on social media. In 2020, social media sharing was the primary driver of streaming show discovery. Quibi had deliberately disabled its own marketing engine. By August 2020, 4 months after launch, Katzenberg and Whitman were in conversations with potential acquirers. Every major tech company and media conglomerate looked at the numbers. 2020, 6 months and 15 days after launch, Quibi announced it was shutting down. The shutdown was as chaotic as the launch. Content deals had been structured so that rights to shows would revert to their creators after a certain period, meaning Quibi could not even sell its content library as an asset. The shows simply disappeared. A Steven Spielberg thriller that had cost millions to produce was gone from every platform, accessible to nobody. The $1.75 billion was almost entirely spent. Investors recovered somewhere between $1 and $200 million, roughly 10 to 15 cents on every dollar they had put in. Among the investors who lost money were Walt Disney Company, NBC Universal, Warner Media, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and Alibaba. The list reads like a who's who of global finance and entertainment, which makes the failure even more remarkable. These were not naive investors. They were the most sophisticated institutions in the world, and they had all looked at Quibi's pitch and said yes. Why? Because Katzenberg had spent 40 years building a reputation that made people feel that betting against him was the risky choice. When Jeffrey Katzenberg tells you he has figured out the future of mobile entertainment, the psychological pressure to agree is enormous. Not because the logic is necessarily sound, but because the person saying it has been right so many times before. This is the mechanism behind almost every large-scale startup failure. The reputation of the founders substitutes for the validity of the idea. Investors are not evaluating the product, they are evaluating the person. And when the person has a track record like Katzenberg's, the product barely gets scrutinized. Nobody asked the question that should have been asked first. Have you shown this to 100 regular people and watched them use it? Not industry insiders, not Hollywood executives. Regular people with phones and $8 a month and genuine alternatives. If they had asked that question and watched the answers, they would have seen what became obvious the moment Quibi launched. The product did not fit the way people actually lived. So what is the lesson? It is not that short-form mobile content is a bad idea. TikTok has proven definitively that it is a brilliant idea. The demand was real. Katzenberg was right about the market. He was wrong about the product. He built a premium subscription service when people wanted free and infinite. He built something you watched alone on a phone when people wanted something they could share and discuss. He built content you had to seek out when people wanted content that came to them. And when customers told him this, through their behavior, through their cancellations, through their public complaints about not being able to cast to a TV, he explained to them that they were wrong. $1.75 billion, 188 days, 0 shows that anyone remembers. The most expensive lesson in the history of streaming is a simple one. Build what people want, not what you think they should want. And if you are not sure which one you are building, ask someone who does not already agree with you. Katzenberg had spent 40 years surrounded by people who agreed with him. In the end, that was the product that failed, not the app.